operation. So minimising people and minimising paper. And that it supported the end-to-end insurance process from the time that you do a quote and an application through to your renewal, your monthly billing and your claim at the end. So what we do is we can get new businesses, startups up and running within 3 months, and we can get new products to market in weeks, days or weeks, not months. So traditionally it takes, in traditional insurance companies, anything from 9 months to a year if you want to launch a new product. So the customers that we've got, customers that we've got are startup insurers and administrators. So I'm going to tell a story around the journey, but just to give it some scale, I guess, I'm going to talk a little bit about pre-2006 at the start and then some of the key things along the way to where we are. And when you go back to have a look at this, it's part of it. There's a long time between drinks sometimes, and that there are more down points than there are up points. And an up point doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be followed by an up point. It can be followed by a down point. So pre-2005, I led a consulting practice working within the insurance industry, high-performing project teams delivering business change, critical business change, large budget type projects. And we would take things from a strategic concept at an executive level through to implementation at an operational level. In 2006, we were approached by what could have been our first customer and asked to develop a system to support a new insurance startup in New Zealand. So that was really the impetus that we needed to get started. It was a conversation that we'd been having between the 3 founders for about the last year, and we'd been, I guess, gathering a bit of a war chest so that we could get started. So the founders at the point and how we wanted to go about it was myself. So my background's business background, being a chartered accountant, moved into project management, general management, process and operations expertise. And then I was partnering with 2 developers, so one from a back-end system perspective and one from a front-end user interface architect, but who understood the overall processes. And we had the same vision about how could we, well, from their perspective it was technology, how could they build something that would enable the operations to be better, and from my perspective it was how could we take this and enable business change, enable how you change the way that insurance businesses operated. So we added to that team to start with. We'd come out with our consulting practice. We had an experienced team of developers, business analysts, test analysts, and we brought that team together, 3 of them, and what we offered them, because we was kind of all bullish when we got together, was that it would be sweat equity stake for a below market rate contract rate. And these people were used to earning really good money in the market, so it was quite a risk for them to, in most cases, halve what they could earn. And we thought at that point that we would go off and develop the system and sell it within 6 months, and that they would start to get a return and we'd be in a profit situation for the business. So we needed some office space, so we rented it was pretty low quality monthly office space, but we did buy the right equipment in terms of computers that were needed for the staff and suitable furniture so that they could be productive and do the work that they needed to do. So in terms of the startup team, people were really keen to be involved at the outset, but the reality of that, once they started to think about it, was it meant less money. We were in a corporate environment, and that's what they'd been used to operating within, and it wasn't for some of them a real job. So the family and other people would go, what are you doing? Are you still kind of mucking around with those people? It's not, it wasn't like credible. And so with that came a little, when people asked questions, what came with that was a little bit of, oh, we're just helping out. And because we hadn't really defined what that sweat equity component would look like. It was a little bit like they were just helping out. So when people just help out, they only help out when it kind of suits them to help out. So the impact was not as motivated, but a cruising. From going from a team that were really motivated and delivery driven, kind of going to the gym at lunchtime, heading off and doing other things, it became more important. So you couldn't count on it to meet the timelines that you were expecting. And because it wasn't externally driven from a client, the timelines were our own timelines, and it's harder to kind of keep everybody working to those when they know that they can just move. It's not like you've got a drop-dead delivery date. But from a structure perspective, I still ran it as a project team, so weekly meetings, people knew what their roles were, to keep some, I guess what Chris talked about earlier, some discipline around how we did things. So in those first few months, we did things a bit back to front, I guess, from what you might, what they might say that you should do, but I had this rough idea about the business plan in my head, but this was actually documenting it. So when I say developing the business plan, it was working it through, researching the local and offshore markets in terms of who we could sell this to. While they were developing the core system, and all of this took longer and it was harder than expected. Part of that was we were starting from scratch, and we'd usually been used to coming in and starting within the concept of an existing business to deliver something. We were working it out as we went, and with your team, they think that you know all the answers, and actually you're still going home thinking, what am I going to do next, or what's the plan going to be from here? And you can't share some of that with them because they look to you for leadership and direction. And it was difficult to develop something when it wasn't specified and you were trying to make it fit what we thought the customer would want to have. Like we understood insurance really well, and we understood the process well, and we were looking at it from an end customer perspective, and we were also trying to build in what a startup insurer or administrator would want to see. And we were trying, our base background was in health insurance, and we were making sure that the system would support other types of insurance. We needed to extend our team skills, so we brought in skills that we didn't have, so around infrastructure, setting up our networks and our development servers and things. And with that, we looked to set it up with companies that we could form relationships with, I guess, where they could share on what we were doing as a business, and we, rather than just a straight service, go off and find somebody for the lowest price, we looked for somebody that we could work with. And that's paid off down the track, because when we want something or we need quick response, then those people understand our business, so they'll come on board to help us. We extended our networking. And I'm just going to give some examples. So New Zealand Computer Society and New Zealand Software Association, NZTE, not because in there's anyone in particular that has all the answers, but they have some interesting speakers, or they introduce you to other people, and that's how things start to grow. So through this New Zealand Software Association in particular, if you're looking at something that's technology-based, they're really good at other people who've been there, done that, and over dinner or chatting to them, you can bounce some things off them, or listen to some speakers who've been there and done that. So talking to people who've been there and done that is quite important, not because they give you the answers, but because you start to get a bit of context, and it helps with the experience that you're having, that you can kind of see on the roadmap where you're at, and also from people who've seen it all before. So for me, people like having breakfast every now and again with Chris is really important, because of the work that she does with other businesses. Where I was at was just a stage where when you're on the other side of the fence, you've seen it all, so she could put some context around it for me. I attended some courses. Some of them were really boring. Some of them were the NZTE kind of funded technology, how do you do marketing course, and each of them it's like, it's pretty basic